Welcome to episode 146 of Beyond the Brick. I'm Joshua Hanlon,
And I'm Matthew Kay.
and we'd like to thank Brickmania for their support of this episode of Beyond the Brick. You can get free shipping on orders over $100 through the end of February at brickmania.com, and I'll make sure to put a link to their website in the description of this video so you can check them out at brickmania.com. And we're very happy to have Jonathan Lopes joining us on the show tonight. He is 45 years old, he works in children's book publishing, and is a Lego artist. And he is a member of the New York City Lego Users Group. So it's really great to have you on the show, Jonathan.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
And if you just want to start off by telling us a little bit about your lug and any of the shows they put on throughout the year.
Sure. We're a very young lug, not in age, obviously, but we've been together, I think, just over a year. And at this point, what we've done is just a few window swap outs at the two Lego stores here in Manhattan, the one in Rockefeller Center and the relatively new store in the Flatiron District. So we've just done a couple of window swaps there. And that's about it at this point. You know, again, we've been together for just about a year.
Mm-hmm. And I know there's the big recent controversy over the kind of window displays taking place in the Lego store. They're changing their policy on how that works. Is that affecting you guys, or would you have any thoughts on the change there?
We just got, I've heard rumors of the change going on within the past weeks, but we just got official word this week. And I can't speak for the lug at all. My lug is a really enthusiastic group of individuals with a lot of passion. Even for myself, it kind of de-incentivizes incentives. It doesn't make it worth it, to me. You're going to build something for the Lego store, put it in their window, and they get to keep it. And in return, you get a big box of mixed Lego. I don't know.
Yeah, so you just got to build something
I
really.
haven't really given it a lot of thought.
You got to build something really not great, and then it'll be an uneven tray, and you'll be walking away with that free brick, just putting a little something in there.
Yeah, no, I think we need to give it a little bit of time.
Sure.
I think,
Now, what is the name of your lug?
NYC lug. I
Okay.
honestly don't know if you pronounce it Nike lug or if Sid Dinsey is the one who pretty much runs it. Fantastic guy. And he's another guy, man, back in the day, 15, 16, I've known him for a long, long time. We had a little lug way, way back that we tried to get together and meet up every now and then in the city and have dinner or something. But this is going back to 1998, 99.
Sure. The Lug Net Days.
What's that?
The Lug Net Days, yes.
Yeah. So so he runs our current lug, and he's a fantastic builder.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
good guy too.
Does this I'm aware of another lug in the New York metro area. Is it I Lug New York? Is this different from them in some way, or?
Yeah, it is. I've met oh boy, I forget his name. Darn it.
Brian Wygard?
No, I met one of the guys, very nice guy, in the Queens Center Lego store one evening after work. I was in there getting some parts a few years ago, and met him in there. Super nice guy. But yeah, no, I'm not part of that lug. They do a lot of, my understanding is they do a number of events and things outside of the city. Sometimes in Westchester County, New York, and sometimes in Stamford, Connecticut, and things like that. It's just, and sometimes I think they have their meetings there as well, and it just not realistic to get there.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, even though it's a city, it's a very big city, so.
Yeah, I mean, even getting just a handful of people together. I remember way back, again in '98 or so, when we were trying to get the lug together, just trying to get people to stop out after work for dinner or to grab a beer or something. It was really a challenge.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people are busy. Understandable. It's hard to get a lot of people together at one place when you got everybody's schedules to deal with.
Totally, yeah. Even more so in the city. Everybody's out running around doing their thing.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that you've kind of been in the community for quite a while, ever since the LugNet days. So that's over 15 years now. Can you give us a little bit of your history with Lego community, kind of how you first got into building, and then some of the first websites you found?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's a common refrain. Again, back in the late '90s, reading the New York Times one day, and I learned that Lego had gotten the Star Wars license, and they had this was before the sets came out, the Star Wars sets, the first release of sets, and they had a picture of the X-Wing fighter. So that kind of piqued my interest again in Lego as an adult. So in anticipation of that, I went straight out to Toys R Us and bought one of the Adventurers sets, or maybe two of them, the big one, Pharaoh's Forbidden Ruins, I think, at the time, and built that and just slowly got reacclimated with the Lego bricks, the pieces themselves. I played with Lego a lot as a kid, way back in the '70s and '80s. But it was Star Wars that got me back into Lego. So I started buying the Star Wars sets and all that, and I had no idea there was an adult community anywhere. And then I just started. That's when I started. I got a computer at that point and started. For lack of a better term, well, maybe I won't say that. I started. Just discovering the internet, and one of my searches was Lego, and it came up to LugNet at the time. And I poked around there, lurked for a little while, and then I joined and slowly became, I became a member of LugNet, of course, and just slowly started participating in dialogue on the news groups in the chat room there, and just developed friendships, and obviously, as everybody does, common interests, common theme interests. I met all the names from back then online, and started sharing my photos, things like that, learning from people, looking at their photos and things like that. So that's really, again, back in like '98, I think, is '97, '98 would be the time. I believe that all that went down.
Now, did you ever go to any conventions?
I've been to a few. I had developed a friendship with John Neal from Minnesota, Twin Cities Lego Train Club, online. And what's that?
Oh, I was going to say Twin Cities Lego Train Club, the NMRA, right?
Yes, yeah. He was displaying in Philadelphia at NMRA. And without him knowing, I just hopped on a train one day and went down for the day to meet him and meet others who were displaying there. And we just, you know the deal. We've been chatting online for years. We had shared photos with one another, learned from one another, really developed a kinship online. So, I meet the guy and we just give each other these big hugs, and just started talking, and immediately just went out, got lunch together, and it really solidified a friendship. And it was about a year later, I think he and his son were in New York, and we got together for lunch. And this is when I was living actually right down the block, and I had my studio in my house. And so I brought them up, John and Ross, and up to my studio where I had my Lego train layout, my minifigure scale Lego train layout. The first one that I did that was in it was in Rail Bricks magazine, and we hung out and I showed them everything I did, and we had a great time. And it was there that I asked him if it would be okay, if he'd be interested in me displaying one of my buildings on his layout one day at some convention that hadn't been scheduled yet. And he and Ross came back to me and said, well, we're doing NMRA in Detroit, and we'd actually like you to do all the buildings if you would be up for it. And I was like, whoa, that kind of rocks. So he gave me the stud dimensions that I had to fill, and these were all facades, building facades. So it was basically, he's like, hey, Jonathan, you have, I forget what the stud count was, but you have, 250 studs to fill with facades. And I think each of my buildings are, maybe 20 to 24 studs wide, my short little facade. So I made a bunch of them, shipped them out to him, and we had a great NMRA out there. That was a great time, that trip to Detroit.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is very cool. It's always nice to get together with other builders. Whenever conventions, small shows, whatever. That's always a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was great. I was able to, I'd known Larry Pinyacek for a while. I met Steve Barreley for the first time out there. Jamie and Chris, the two that run Brick Feet up in Toronto. Jeremy Spurgeon, Jim Garrett. Oh my goodness, Jim, the guy that built
Jim. Those crazy skyscrapers, right? Detroit skyline.
Oh man, yeah. And he gave me a tour of a quick tour one day of Detroit, and we were going, which I love doing. I love going to cities for conventions and having somebody show me around, or getting out in the city myself and showing myself around. And Jim was kind enough to show me around Detroit a bit. And we had actually planned to go take a longer trip the next day, but it just so happens I was really sick. I don't know if it was from the flight or the hotel was. There are some fun stories about that hotel.
Very Detroit.
Yeah. But yeah, I was just really sick at the time, and I couldn't, I had a fever and everything, so I had to cancel the second day that he was going to show me around. But that was a great show. A lot of fun.
Awesome.
You mentioned at the beginning there when you were talking about how you first kind of got back into Lego as an adult. I thought it was interesting. Was it a New York Times article you said you were reading?
Yeah. Yep. This was before the Star Wars sets came out, the first run of the sets. But it was just a quick article. What drew me to it was they had a picture of the X-Wing fighter, and it was just an article about, maybe in the business section, about Lego attaining the Star Wars license. And as a kid growing up in the late 70s and early 80s, Star Wars was I'm sure you've all heard this a million times, but Star Wars had a pretty big impact on me. And with my small Lego collection that I had as a kid, I used to try to build, the Snowspeeder was always my favorite. So I used to try to build those out of my little Lego collection as a kid. Of course, it was red and green and blue and, all different colors, but it was Star Wars that got me back into Lego, definitely.
So this was something, a kind of a fairly creative thing you were just kind of drawn back into as an adult, and that Star Wars is just kind of what pushed you back into the theme?
Yeah, exactly right. I didn't build Star Wars stuff. You know, I bought the Star Wars sets and then just started building town. But yeah, you know, I think I was searching for a creative outlet. I've always been artistic, always been creative. When I was younger, really young, I used to draw. I drew a lot with pastels as a child and into my teens. Always been creative. I'm a musician, play keyboards and piano. That's what brought me to New York City in the first place, to join a band and you know, make a run at becoming a rock star back in the late '80s with long hair and all that stuff. But you know, and as the '90s, you know, started taking over, it was you know, I had gotten out of that and was really longing for a creative outlet, and it just happened to be Lego, and that fulfilled the outlet for a while as a hobby and a Lego fan, I guess you might say, and it's just developed into really an art at this point. It's more of a medium to me at this point than it is a hobby or anything like that. It's a creative medium for me.
So do you find yourself following like the latest set release like less and less, but maybe like the latest part releases are a lot more interesting to you now?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. I used to, you know, get the Lego catalog in the mail, and I'd go through it, and I'd be, my goodness, I own every single set that's in here. You know? Now it's the opposite. I very rarely buy sets, and when I do, it's for parts only. Mm-hmm. And even you mentioned keeping abreast of new parts. I do try to keep abreast of the new parts, but when I build, I do try to stick to the basics as well. You know, bricks, plates, tiles.
Sure.
It all starts there. Brick modified, of course. You know, I go into the bricks with side studs and headlight bricks and things like that that add texture. Technic bricks are really important to put the studs of plates into the holes, and that gives it texture on the outside of buildings. Things like that. But I do try to stay with the staples and avoid some of the Playmobil type pieces.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, what do they call them? Like poop parts, you know, parts out of other parts?
Yeah.
Like you could...
Yeah, but even, you know, I don't want to say anything negative about parts. You know, there are a lot of parts that are like one parts that, you know, I just don't find... You know, I'd rather... Well, here's an example, slopes. I really don't use slopes a whole lot for roofs or anything. You know, I have a whole drawer full of slopes, and I just don't use them. I use plates for a roof to get a texture and a different angle, you know? So
certain parts don't fit into your aesthetic guidelines. That's what you're saying, right? Yeah.
There you go. You know? Yeah. You know, I'll put the idea out there. You just show me the right words to use to get that idea across.
Awesome.
You did it perfect.
I'm on the same page with you. I like that stuff.
Yeah, I'm not the most eloquent dude, you know.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. Now, so you obviously kind of joined LugNet as you got back into the Lego community. How was your transition then into more of kind of a Lego artist and treating Lego as an art like you do today? How did that work over the years?
You know, it started with the train layouts that I had done. I did the one that was on the cover of Rail Bricks, and then I dismantled that and built another one and posted all those photos online. And a friend of mine who is not into Lego at all really took note of the work I was doing with Lego, and you know, he came over one day and he's like, man, you know, people need to see this. People outside of the Lego community and outside of the photos and the, you know, the people, the Lego people, Lego friends that come to New York City and I connect with. You know, fortunately I live in a big city and a lot of Lego fans, people that you know, of course, visit the city, and I always try to hook up with them. I connected with Joe Mino, and others. But this friend of mine said, people need to see this. You need to start building stuff and putting them in galleries and things like that. And, as any shy creative, I was like, yeah, maybe, and I never really did it. So then what this friend did, he created a gallery show. He got all his creative friends together, painters, sculptors, photographers, and me. And he created a gallery show and said, okay, all my creative friends, we're having this gallery show. I challenge you to create 3 pieces. You have 6 months to do it, and you please create 3 pieces and bring them, and we will have an evening with wine, a DJ, and a gallery space.
Okay, I guess I'm up.
Yeah, and so he really played me quite well. Because I was like, okay, I guess I'll do it. And, I'm a shy person, I'm a quiet person. And so actually, this is the Williamsburg Savings Bank, literally right up the block from me here in Brooklyn. And this was the first piece that I displayed at that gallery show. And this was in 2009 or 2010. And we had, over 100 people showed up, for all friends of ours, all word of mouth. It wasn't a public event. And just the reaction I got from it was really amazing. So then he brought that, we work at the same company. So then he brought the idea to the company I work for, and it was like, he asked the company, can we do a gallery show in one of the conference rooms for the employees of the company, all the creatives in the company. Again, I work in book publishing, which is a really hugely creative field. A lot of graphic designers, photographers, all types of creatives. So he approached management and asked them if we could do a gallery show at the one evening after work and keep all the artwork displayed for a week. And they were absolutely all for it.
That's awesome. That's
yeah,
really cool. Like getting
really,
everybody to sort of bring their, what does everybody do when they get home from work? Let's all kind of.
One guy, another friend of mine, made a guitar, a working guitar, out of a cigar box, an electric guitar.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was amazing. That was the first one we did at work, and I made a 12-foot long version of the Manhattan Bridge, which is about a half mile from here, the Manhattan Bridge. But a 12-foot long version of that. And that, actually, I'm going to be bringing that to Raleigh as well.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah. So I built that for that gallery show. And again, it just got amazing, amazing reviews. People were just blown away by it. And that was kind of when I came out of my little box. Nobody had known this about me at work. I try to separate work from personal life
Sure.
to some level, or at least I used to. Not anymore. Now we all know each other outside, and we all work with some great people. But the following year, for that show, I did a 7.5-foot tall version of the Woolworth Building. And again, people were blown away by that. And last year, or 2 years ago, I did Mr. Tiger, who is a children's book character. And he'll also be coming with me to Raleigh. So that kind of got me into the taking it and viewing it as a medium. Artistic medium. And getting good reviews from that as well. And that pretty much brought me to where I am today. I've been just doing a lot of work lately, commission pieces, which I'm really grateful for. There's a children's book publisher up in Boston called Candlewick Press, and I've delivered 3 pieces to them this winter, and I have 2 more in the works for them right now that I'm working on.
And so this is maybe a perfect segue into BKNY Bricks. What exactly is it? When did you decide to formalize your little Lego commission business? Maybe some story behind that?
Yeah, that was just a brainstorm. This was a few years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I was just trying to find a niche to take my then hobby to another level, and so I decided to develop these kits, custom Lego building kits that were aimed at children and that were simple and small and affordable as to the consumer. So what I did is I came up with 5 designs. One was a subway car, one was a taxi, a garbage truck, a fire truck, and an ice cream truck. And I made 100 of each 100 copies of each, made the instructions. I work in printing, so I printed up the really professional looking packaging for them. And opened up an Etsy store and started selling them on Etsy, and then also in craft fairs and holiday fairs, holiday markets, street fairs, things like that. And I did that, started that about just as a little experiment. I set a budget and stayed within that budget, and that's where BKNY Bricks started out. With those kits. I have some left. I had a holiday market fair late, when was it? Early December. Just before the end, and I sold most of my stuff. And from there, BKNY Bricks, I just used that as my business name for the commissioned work I do. But that really, BKNY Bricks was more geared toward the kits that one run of kits. I don't plan to do any more kits. It's a lot of work, the assembly line and all that. But again, I wanted to do it. I'm happy I did it. It was a nice experiment, and it's one of those stepping stones. Everything, like we talked about earlier when we weren't live on camera. About my minifig scale buildings and things, and how I viewed that. Everything is a stepping stone to the next level for me. I'm not afraid to make a mistake or do something that's incorrect or unpopular. It's all about taking the next step.
Totally,
So,
and that's how most creative endeavors go, right? It's like everything sort of leads to the next thing, and you're just constantly building a pool of knowledge. So it's kind of good to get your toes wet in a lot of different things. That's awesome.
Yeah, totally. The kits were, again, I don't plan on doing more, but it was a step that got me to where I am.
So now we know that BKNY came about because of the kits, but it seems like you're doing a fair amount of commission work at this point. So you mentioned the Candlewick Press. Are there any other commissions that stand out to you?
I had done a number of little smaller commissions, and the big one that really got me thinking about doing a lot more commission work, I believe it was in 2010. an organization in Oklahoma City contacted me after seeing my train layouts, and they had just Oklahoma City, as the city, had just redone their botanical garden in downtown Oklahoma City, and an organization there contacted me and asked me if I could replicate it out of Lego and deliver it and install it in a show they were doing. And that was the first really large-scale commission piece that I did. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. It was stressful, of course, being the first one that I had done of that scale. I had little time to do it. And one of the unique things about that one, it was built in sections, and it was so big, and my schedule was so tight that I never got to see the full botanical garden, my creation, all in one piece until I was on site building it. The thing was, I think, 8 feet wide, ice plates, of course. And I was building it in sections. So I would finish a section, sit up, and ship it out, and then start the next section. So I never saw it in one piece as one unit until I was on site building it there. It came together flawlessly. You know, I had it all planned out, but it was one of the unique aspects of that build. And from there, you know, I just, again, post pictures online, and you know, people just started noticing it, and then I'd get a contact from you know, somebody else asking me about something else and asking me about another commission, and it just builds little by little. So actually, also, believe it or not, I'm friendly with my dry cleaner around the corner where I live, and he allowed me to put some of my creations, including this building, in his window in the dry cleaner. And what happened from there was I got an immediate 2 commissions from neighborhood people to build their houses. I also got some media from a Brooklyn newspaper, and then the New York Daily News, and then Gothamist, which is a blog here in the city. There's also, you may have heard of it. I'm sure there's one in Chicago.
There's the Chicagoist, DCist. I am very familiar with these blogs. Yes, wonderful,
yes.
Wonderful little publications.
Oh yeah, I love it. A lot of fun. SF, San Francisco's got it. SFist, LAist, it's everywhere. So I had a nice write-up with them. The Village Voice grabbed on me and didn't do such a nice write-up on me there.
Oh.
They had a different spin on it. Yeah, that was fun. But so, you know, just the media attention, and then, you know, more requests came in for more work. And where am I going? Yeah, just built into more commission pieces or commission requests. You know, I do.
If you ever have the opportunity to put your Lego models in your local friendly neighborhood dry cleaner's window, just do it, because good stuff will happen.
Good stuff happens.
That's awesome.
Good stuff will happen. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's really awesome. So when you're working on some of these large models, you talked about, like I think it was a 12-foot bridge you've done, these obviously massive buildings. What's a design process generally like on those? Are you drawing anything up beforehand, or you just kind of grab the bricks and start going at it? How does that work?
I think it's a little bit different for each project. If I'm doing a building, I will generally sketch out the window lines first before I don't do street level first. Like I'll focus on of the building. So with the Woolworth building, I counted the number of windows and looked at their proportions and really came up with the idea of how I wanted each floor, each level of the building to look and those proportions. So the main body of the building, the windows and the space between them, is what I focus on first, because to me that's where the eye is going to go. You know, you need the right proportions between the windows, for example, in this building, and the right number of studs and the accurate number of windows. So I do the main body, design the main body of the building first. Sometimes I'll sketch it on paper. Sometimes I'll just build it rough out of you know, any bricks that I have on hand. And then from there, once I have that, I design street level. Street level is usually later in the process for me, because it's usually, for me, it's more forgiving as well. If a proportion isn't entirely accurate, or you have to, you know, do some fancy maneuvers down there. So I do sketch things out, and other things I just, how did the bridge go down? The most difficult part of the bridge was doing the uprights with all the girders in them. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Manhattan Bridge, but it's all like a steel bridge. It's painted blue. It's not a stone bridge, not made out of stone or concrete. It's a steel structure bridge with girders and X's in the girders. And I just started playing with those and figuring out how that could be done. And then from there, once I had that style that I wanted to build developed and knew what I wanted to do, at that point, I wanted to build it in sand blue, to be honest, but that would have been difficult just due to part selection and the cost of the parts. So I ended up doing it in medium blue and ordered all the parts directly from Shop and Home. But you know, again, it was standard parts. It was all plates, mostly plates and headlight bricks in sand blue. I just ordered, you know, a couple, or more than a couple, but just thousands of 1x2, 1x4 plates and headlight bricks in sand blue and medium blue.
Now, was this from Shop at Home's like part replacement service, like through the customer service area, or was this through Pick-a-Brick online?
Pick-a-Brick, Shop at Home, Pick-a-Brick.
Okay.
Yeah, that was up and running at the time I built that. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I supplemented it with BrickLink purchases as well. Yeah, I did, you know, Shop at Home, Pick-a-Brick, you know, it's really expensive. But I did suck it up for that one. I think, I don't know, 1x2s were like 10 cents each or something.
Yeah, that's a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I was at Legoland, California last summer, and they had medium blue 1x2 plates in their Pick-a-Brick there. So I bought a few thousand.
And Legoland is kind of almost, I would say, maybe even more expensive than online Pick-a-Brick, or do you find that not to be true? I know that the by pound thing is just kind of a ripoff sometimes, you know?
Yeah, it's rather expensive. I started going to Legoland. I went for the first time in 2001, I believe, or 2002, and the reason I went there is because on Lugnet, somebody had posted that they had dark orange in their bulk in 1x2s and 2x2 bricks. And man, I was on a plane and out there. That's my favorite Lego color.
Someone says they've got this part, man. I'm getting on the next jet. We're going out there.
Literally, I planned my vacation for the first time to go to San Diego. My first time I rent a car, checked into the hotel, and it was late in the day, and I drove up to Legoland, got there, I think they were closing at 8 o'clock, and I got there at like 7 o'clock, got a shopper's pass, and went in and thousands and thousands of dark orange bricks. My first 3 trips to Legoland. I actually made 3 trips out there over the next couple of years, and the main reason was to get dark orange. But at that point, it wasn't as expensive.
Yeah, it's still up there though, even to this day. You know, anything with darker sand in front of it, I find, is first off an amazing color, but really expensive.
Yeah, but the pick-a-brick wasn't as expensive then.
No, it has increased greatly because I would assume that you went when it was still under the ownership of Lego itself, right?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
it was in 2001
Yeah.
before Berlin took over, and I think it was the price was might have been $5.99 for a quarter pound, which is still kind of pricey. But now I think it's $8.99 or $9.99 for a quarter pound, and the selection is greatly reduced as well.
Yeah.
They used to have the whole clubhouse used to be just filled with bins of different bricks, and now they really have just not as wide a selection.
Hmm.
It's different
A
than
very different time.
Yeah, it's different than the selection of a store pick-a-brick, but still, it's not as wide a selection as it used to be.
Yeah.
The good old days.
The good old days.
Always something to look back on and complain about, seems like, with things like that. You know, we mentioned the store windows earlier. There's always something like that, it seems like.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, I was talking with Sid in my log, just emailing him, and a lot of people do, a lot of fans do complain and gripe about it, but honestly, the Lego company doesn't owe us anything, in my view. They're a company, they've got to do. They have to do, and we're fortunate that we have a creative medium, and you just have to be creative about how you get your bricks, and to do it in a way that you can rationalize. But as a company, I just that I don't find myself really griping or complaining about them. They're a business; they have to do what they have to do, and I'm not of the viewpoint that they owe anybody anything.
No, and to be honest, they're a lot more generous and I don't want to say like logical, but maybe considerate of their like hardcore fans than most companies like really ever have been. I don't know, you know.
I fully agree with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Totally.
and
Yeah, even just going here in Soho, they really took an interest in their fans in the adult segment of the Lego community. Kevin Hinkle, and back in the day, Jake McKee, and these guys that they go to the conventions,
Sure.
And,
And with I think you say back in the day, I think of Lego Direct back in the they would produce these reissues of sets that fans wanted, and
yeah,
they were doing all kinds of crazy stuff back then.
yep,
So yeah, what is it? I don't know, co-creation. That's a buzzword Lego has embraced for going on near a decade or more. So the rest of the corporate America and corporate the world is just now catching up. So really on the cutting edge of that kind of stuff.
yeah. No, they've led the charge. They've definitely led the charge.
Oh yeah.
mm-hmm.
The window thing is in the stores is certainly disappointing, but we don't know where that's going to lead and what changes they will. We don't know what's around the corner. So it could be. Well, it may seem negative now. They might change their mind or do something else that benefits.
Hopefully for the better.
Yeah.
They have something in mind there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And kind of getting back to, we were talking a little bit earlier about the commissions and stuff you've done. Is there anything you have in mind, or anything that comes to mind as far as like the funniest or maybe most interesting commission you've been asked to do? Anything that first pops into your head is a really odd request you've gotten over the years?
Huh. Yeah, I don't think somebody asked. I was once asked by a marketing firm to build a Lego replica of a spreadsheet or a graph, like an Excel graph.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and they wanted it. The request was for it to be about 16 feet long and have it would be a comparison chart that had a red line, a red graph line going up it, and then a blue graph line going a bit below it. So the red line would be the better of the two, and they wanted miniatures all along those graph lines. That was an interesting one. That one did not come to fruition. I don't think they were prepared for the cost of a 16 by 8 foot Lego sculpture of an Excel sheet. And
you mean it's going to be more than
so
$100? Come on.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. No. I sent them the quote, and never heard back. I sent them a follow-up, and then I finally did get a response that they were going in another direction, and I
That
think
did not graph well for them money-wise.
Yeah, it's it's difficult. Unfortunately it is an expensive medium. I think people underestimate it, but I also think people can underestimate the time that goes into it and the expense there, and I mean there is a talent as well. I think that is worth something. I kind of call it the Walmart head. We get so used to buying inexpensively that sometimes I think it might affect. I think it has a direct effect on the art world and other worlds as well, where things are some things are just so expensive that there's a natural trajectory where people just want everything to be really inexpensive, and something shouldn't be inexpensive.
It's worth more. Yeah, totally.
And it seems like you hear about that a lot more, like you said, kind of in the art world with things like graphic design or things of that nature, where people just expect, I think a lot of the time, just expect you to do it for, either incredibly cheap or free, a lot of people. So stuff like that, a lot of people don't understand the time it takes and time put into creating stuff along those lines when it comes to a lot of art-related stuff. So I think that's definitely true.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And time is valuable. I mean, if you really think about it, it might sound a little morbid, but time is really the one resource we cannot get back.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can buy more Lego. You can't get back that evening wasted on a commission that they're not paying for. Yeah. I don't know.
Time is a valuable resource.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
totally. Now, I kind of want to see if we can maybe let's maybe pull it back and go back to your days of I guess fan building, and one of your layouts in particular stands out to me. And these are layouts that I believe you've done several iterations of these, but the minifig scale, like kind of post-industrial wasteland type landscape. And the one in particular I really want to focus on was your urban landscape number 2 from 2011. So maybe talk about how did you conceptualize these layouts? Like, what's the story behind them? Because they're obviously pretty awesome, but is there more to them? What's going on?
Yeah. I don't think there's more to them. They are, a number of years ago, I just happened to be researching, the South Bronx, just out of curiosity, and what it was like in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and even the early 90s, when it was really, just a burnt out shell of a city, and all these tenement buildings just empty and just shells, and just really reduced services from the city as far as policing, garbage pickup, and fire support, fire department. And I did a lot of research on that, and that really triggered in my mind, how can I achieve this out of Lego, where Lego is, primarily known for the bright colors, the red, green, and blue. And this is before Harry Potter and before all the earth tone pieces came out in bulk that we all have now. So I really wanted to try to capture that, that feeling, that grittiness, in the medium that is known for really bright colors and shiny, happy people.
It's like you're basically like rendering the antithesis of what Lego, like, maybe not stands for, but what Lego produces.
Yes.
Bright, crispy buildings with pretty colors. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And really trying to build realistic, burnt-out buildings without using dirty bricks, without manipulating the bricks at all or painting them or anything. And I was really happy with the results. And that led to the next urban layout, the next urban landscape, which retained some of that. It retained the gritty urban feel, which I love. And it had buildings with cracking and peeling paint, if you will, effects, but it didn't have the blatant burnt-out buildings and firebombed things. But it still, it attained the grittiness that I saw it every day. I was living in the Bronx at the time, and the Bronx has come a long way. It's really a gorgeous borough for architecture. And even now, the neighborhood I live in now, it's there are brownstones and all that, but there's also now and then these industrial-looking buildings just pop up, and really striving for the realism that I see every day.
Now, did the layouts kind of come about organically, or was there like a master plan where you sort of sat down and charted street layouts and?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
Yeah, I get that question often. The first one that I did, I had it in my mind, actually on paper for a while. I knew I wasn't going to be using the Lego base plates for roads. I knew I did not want to do that.
Now, you were one of the first people to really do that brick-built road kind of stuff, Now it's really popular amongst a lot of train clubs, but I think you were kind of right. Maybe they're at the cutting edge of that whole, like, let's brick build as much as possible, tribe.
Yeah, there were definitely people that did it before I did. Because I remember distinctly doing some research on what that would look like. The one difference, and this was after the color change, I did mine in old dark gray, which I just happened to get a K8 of old dark gray 1x4, actually two K8s of old dark gray 1x4s, and those made up my streets. I had a lot of brick-built streets that were black, and that just didn't have the right feel for me.
It doesn't photograph very well, black.
What's that?
I said black doesn't really photograph terribly well, to be honest.
Oh, no, right? It doesn't at all. Yeah, but it's just too rich for a street. I mean, tar, pavement is effectively black, but once it gets bleached by the sun, it fades. And the black just didn't work for me. And I didn't want the limitations of of using the base plate.
Sure.
So
Now,
there's no. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I was going to say one of my favorite things about the layout is that kind of you have these angles going, streets, and you have elevation changes. So it's not like that typical. You said you don't like to use the base plate. It's not like a typical kind of, just a flat run-of-the-mill town. It's got these bridges and viaducts and all kinds of cool stuff.
Yep, I really wanted. Yeah, that was definitely in my mind. I really wanted to get the different levels. I wanted an elevated subway. I'm really into public transportation and mass transit and not into cars whatsoever and using my two legs to get around. So I really wanted to emphasize the, public transportation, mass transit. So I wanted a subway that really went underground. I really wanted an elevated train, so I made both. And I also wanted a light rail. So I had that and incorporated that in there as well, in addition to a freight train, of course. But yeah, having the number of different levels was key.
And I think another, I think we should jump from like strength to strength here about what makes the project so successful. Is that you're kind of like a vehicle builder and a building builder at the same time. I know a lot of people, they'll either just do vehicles, or they'll either just do buildings or just trains, but I think your ability to kind of master all the facets sort of is what makes it really successful. You have really detailed vehicles that are accurate to the scene, combined with equally nice buildings. So that's sort of nice interplay going on there.
No, thanks. I appreciate it. It was interesting. The buildings, building the individual pieces, like a building or a vehicle, I had actually switched apartments. This is going way back. This is in the early 2000s. I had moved from a larger apartment to a smaller one, and I really didn't have a lot of space, so I wasn't able to build the layout. This was before the urban landscapes. So I focused on building really detailed buildings and also refining my skills building the vehicles. So I knew I couldn't do a big layout, so I focused on the small parts, the small aspects of a layout. And the vehicles were really tricky. Once I got the hang of it, like anything, I guess, the more you do it, the better the results. The vehicles, the trucks, and things. I'm really happy with my 6 and 7 wide vehicles.
And the 7 wide ones are the real tricky. Your odd stud dimensions, just kind of.
Yeah, it's almost like torturing yourself.
Torturing yourself for good, though.
Yeah, no, it's challenging. I mean, that's why one of the reasons I get into the hobby. I want to do things that push my limits. One of my layouts. If you look closely, most of the buildings had 3 wide windows.
Yes.
I now build 2 wide windows generally, but most people build 4 wide. But I wanted to do a whole layout with 3 wide, and one of the reasons I wanted to do that was to challenge myself. And it was challenging. But again, back to that theme that I mentioned earlier, it's everything is a step.
Totally.
At the current state, so just over the years, was just developing my abilities and techniques.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think these turned out, really awesome. This whole huge layout here is just so incredible, and I think it's a really cool type of layout with, a lot of the dilapidated buildings and things of that nature. You don't see that type of building very often with Lego because, like you said, I think it lends itself more to the bright colors and things like that. So it is cool to see a layout like this.
Yeah, thanks. That was exactly what I was going for. I didn't want it to look antiseptically clean and, the street lamps and things like that to be perfect. I think you know, I think Lego lends itself to trying to be perfect and perfection and entirely accurate.
Sharp
When
corners.
Yeah, when people build things, and I go the opposite way. I want it to be. I call it building with a little soul. Building, it's a soulful approach. It's, for lack of a better term. Um, I don't want it to. I don't want when I build a building or a layout. I don't want it to be exactly perfect. Like my street lamps aren't going to be the exact number of studs away from one another. All going to be shiny and perfect, and because in life they're not. I go for a realistic feel when I build.
Hmm. Kind of putting a little humanity back in the build, kind of making it a little more real world, so it just that much more enjoyment out of the buildings.
And also, I might add
Yeah.
American, because I know a lot of Lego. It's like even the sets they're very very Eurocentric, to kind of a frightening degree. But to have like so uniquely American kind of Lego style buildings, that's really cool too.
No, I appreciate that. Thanks. Yeah, there's some great architecture in Europe, man. I'd love to try giving a go at some of their buildings.
Sure.
Hmm. Is that something you've tried before? Have you tried to build any very many iconic European landmarks or anything like that?
Yeah, I don't think I have. That's an interesting question. Yeah, I have not. I have not. It's certainly there's a very there's a ton to choose from. There's a lot of buildings to choose from. It's really where architecture started, right? Just some of those old stone buildings.
Definitely. But, nice to see the American stuff, I guess. That's just me being an American. I'm sorry, rest of world. I just like to see. I said, oh, that looks like something that I don't know. It's nice. So.
Yeah, there's a familiarity to it, It's
gives me that little tingly feeling inside, It's happiness, a happy place, something like that. So dilapidated buildings do make me happy. I guess that's all I'm getting at. So, A+.
Thanks. It's one thing about the Lego community that it's a worldwide community, and we're all able to experience things from different countries and creations from different areas that really expand upon what we would see every day. There's some just amazing European and Australian and other countries, Japanese builders that build things and build buildings and architecture from what they're familiar with and from their areas of the world. And
totally.
Just seeing those pictures is really rewarding as well.
It's like giving kids crayons. You'll take a kid from each continent and they'll draw something different, but they'll be using the same crayons. So yeah, everyone has the same Lego bricks, but what can you do with them? So.
Exactly.
Something like along those lines.
Very well said. Once again.
One of the most fascinating. And this is something I think I like to bring up a little bit too often, but in conversations that we've had with Jan Baer, the Legos, I think Asian community liaison, he talks about the numbers that these Asian lugs have, and it's immense. You were talking like 50,000 people like signed up for one forum, and that just really makes me question, like, is there some alternate universe where all these builders are posting their creations that we're just not privy to, So who knows what's out there? There's umpteen million possibilities. So,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, some amazing creations come out of the Far East.
Totally. Crazy stuff to think about.
Is there anything that you have planned for the future then that you can tell us about? I'm sure you might have some projects in the works that you're keeping secret here, but is there any buildings or anything, train layouts, anything of that sort you can tell us about?
There are not any buildings or train layouts. I am currently, it's a good problem to have, but I am booked with commissioned pieces through June at this point, June 2015. and I've been going since September 2014. So I have not had a time to build for myself at all within the past few months, and I don't foresee that in the next few months. I am working. I don't know if you guys have seen my art pieces, my flowers and trees. They're on my Flickr set and my mock pages set. That they're almost like paintings, but they're built entirely out of Lego.
Yeah,
hang on.
I remember seeing those when I was looking through your Flickr feed. Those are really impressive. I really like those.
Yeah, thanks. I definitely plan on doing more in that vein. As little bits, I have overwhelming number of ideas, but I definitely have some more of those in the pipeline at this point. There is a building on the West Coast, and that's the only hint I will give.
That narrows it down a lot.
Well then.
Yeah, all right. It's in California, Northern California, but not San Francisco.
Sacramento.
What's that?
Sacramento?
No, it is not.
Oakland?
Very close. Nice.
Okay. Ooh.
Yeah, that's it.
Is it for a Fortune 100 company that happens to be located in Silicon Valley?
No.
Yeah? Okay, all right. Well, we'll just leave it at that then.
Yeah, I might give a go with this building. I've had this building on my radar for 2 years now, and I was there over the holidays last month. Oh, it seems like so long ago, but yeah, I was there over the holidays last month for New Year's, and really fancied this building. So I took some really detailed photos of it. So I think I might give it a go at some point. But
awesome.
yeah, it comes down to time, unfortunately, and I have the fortunate problem of having a lot of commissioned pieces in the pipeline.
Very fortunate problem.
But it takes away from my personal building.
Now, you mentioned these commissions and personal building. Do the two ever really get in the way? Do you ever sort of resent the fact that you have to do these commissions? Like, I wish I could just be building this for myself, Or do you build stuff now for yourself and you wish I should be getting paid for this? Do these thoughts ever kind of cross your mind?
No, actually, yeah, that doesn't happen. Some of my commissioned work. For example, I did a version of Fallingwater last year that had a pump and had running water through it. Yeah, so it had a pump. I had to seal it with epoxy, the riverbed. So it was Frank Lloyd Wright's Fallingwater. This was a commission piece, and it was the customer's idea.
That's wild.
And figure out how to do it. Not a regret. I wish I built one of those for myself at the same time as well.
Okay.
Because it ended up coming out really, really well, and I'd love to have a Fallingwater fountain in my house. So, yeah, now and then I'll do a commission piece where it's like, man, I want one of these for myself.
Okay, well that's a good regret to have. I mean, that just means that you're doing. It's like you're getting high on your own supply, or you wish you could. I guess. Yeah, that's awesome.
I remember seeing that the Fallingwater build as I was looking through your Flickr feed, and I saw the pictures, and I was like, oh, that's a really cool Fallingwater, build. And then as I was looking through some more photos of it, and I saw you posted a video, and I saw, oh, that actually has real running water through it, made it even that much cooler. That was a really awesome build. I thought that turned out well.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it. That was again, that goes back to my dry cleaner when I had this building in the window, because it was a neighborhood person who's an art collector, saw this building, and they had commissioned some other pieces from me earlier, and his wife did, and then he came back again last year and asked me to do this for his wife's birthday, to do Fallingwater, and it was his idea to put the water in it. But again, it all started with my dry cleaner and putting my Lego creations in his window.
So maybe the lesson also is to move to Brooklyn and then find a dry cleaner and then put your, because I'm not sure if my neighborhood dry cleaner, I don't think his customers would be as willing to commission art pieces as maybe your local dry cleaner. But that's ridiculously awesome that it's panned out for you like this.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned, I think, a couple times you'll be heading to Raleigh, North Carolina with some of your builds here. So I believe there's a convention coming up there.
Yeah.
Somewhat in the next few months here that you'll be attending. What is the name of that convention? Will we be able to make it to any others?
The one in North Carolina is BrickUniverse, and I don't plan to go to any other conventions at this point. Again, it comes down to the time and the time spent doing it. The BrickUniverse just happened to fit with my schedule, and I don't know that I'll be attending any of the other conventions at this point.
Mm-hmm. Well, so if people do want to see your work in person, though, if they're in the Raleigh area there, they might be able to come out to BrickUniverse and check that out. And I believe that's a first-year event this year, so see how the first year goes for that, and maybe they'll continue that on into future years.
Who knows?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm. It should be really cool. So I'll make sure to include links to everything we talked about on the show here in the BrickUniverse website if you're interested in checking out that convention and maybe seeing some of Jonathan's work in person there. And I think that about wraps it up for us tonight, Jonathan. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us on the show tonight. It's been a real honor to be able to speak with you about your Lego art.
Great. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Appreciate your time. It's nice talking with you guys, too.
Yes, no problem. We really enjoyed it. So, like I mentioned, I'll have links to everything we talked about in the description of this video. You can check out some more of Jonathan's work on his Flickr page and see all of his cool builds he has there. And I wanted to remind you guys about the Brick Builders Club at brickbuildersclub.com, where you can sign up to receive your monthly box of really cool Lego content like custom pieces, stickers, and Lego t-shirts. Find that at brickbuildersclub.com. Thanks for watching, everybody. We will see you next week.